3.5, the community center. Would you do the roll call, please?
Chairperson Bagwell.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Hanneman.
Here.
Member Bunkowski.
Here.
Member Lapierre.
Here.
Member Purpich. Member Scheck.
Here.
Member Wickstead.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the, item 3, public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the Carson City Redevelopment Authority Citizens Committee, including any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. Do we have any public comment? We don't have it. Then we'll move on to item number 4. For possible action, approval of the minutes from August 4th. Do I have any corrections?
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we're on to item 5.1, which is to provide recommendations to the Redevelopment Authority regarding long-term policies for the use of undesignated infrastructure funds and other uncommitted redevelopment funds. Lee?
Good evening. Thank you for the record. Lee Plemmel, Community Development Director. So this item is on the agenda, and it's a continuation of the discussion from last month, the RAC meeting of last month. As you can see in your packet, we had the discussion last month was to help to start identify a priority list for projects, objectives, and goals to forward to the Board of Supervisors before their strategic planning session later in October of this year. And Michael and I took copious notes during the discussion, and on the second page of your packet is a list of 10 projects, 10 individual projects, and we've taken with each of those projects, and with this kind of what we heard and wrote down all of the whole list that we heard from you last month. And with each project, we've identified the specific objective or objectives that are identified in the redevelopment plan area statement, redevelopment plan area documents, plan area objectives. Plans, yeah. Redevelopment plans for Area 1 and 2. So as you forward recommendations, while there are specific projects, I think there's kind of a combination. You're also kind of developing what the priority are in terms of objectives and identifying objectives as they relate to specific projects that you have mentioned. So what I think after last month's discussion and with discussing it with the chair a little bit, and as I have noted in the staff report, what I kind of anticipate having you do tonight is have some discussion about the rankings of these. What I'll put up on here is a spreadsheet, has all of the projects that are listed on this page. Perhaps you've identified some other projects or objectives that need to go on here. And as we've done in the past with community development block grant recommendations in a large board where we have a lot of projects and you try to rank them, and I think this has worked pretty well in the past, is to have you each rank these projects in your individual order. We'll average that out. I can see I got to reduce so in the right-hand column there, we'll come up with an average ranking, and we can resort them so you kind of see which ones fall to the top of your list overall, which ones fall to the bottom, and you can have some more discussion and make recommendations based on that. And I provided some background. There's from last time as well. The complete objectives from plan area statement from the plan area plans 1 and 2 are in there for your reference. And I think, without going into too much further discussion, I'll turn it back over to the chair for discussion and see how you want to proceed from here.
Thank you. So I think that's a good idea to see if we have a feel and can get any consensus in the board as to where our priorities lie so that we can help make a recommendation. So maybe if we start, everybody got their copy of the projects that they need to do. So Lacey, are you willing to fill in your numbers?
Sure.
Okay. So, I'm like, which side? Which side's going first? Okay.
Well, I think that the Fuji Park sign is number one with me. Is there?
Turn on your microphone so we can go slow enough for him to
Okay.
put him in the lucky number.
I think Fuji Park is number one. The brewery is two. And the rest of them would just follow down. They don't quite strike the inner thoughts.
You've got your 1 and 2.
Yeah, just 1 and 2, and I think that the rest of them, we have to wait until we get more on downtown and what's going down on the corridor, and that pretty much before we can commit any funds to signage downtown or street lighting or sidewalk improvements, unless we're taking that out from the downtown corridor.
Go ahead, Gary.
Ronnie, will you explain to me your vision for the 3rd Street Plaza, or what we're talking here? Yeah, what's the 3rd Street Plaza?
Okay, I'm not sure that I'm qualified to say that, but what I had thought originally was basically closure of 3rd Street, because that is where most of the events are taking place during the on-season, if you will, during the summer. In fact, last Friday night, there was another event down there. And just closing it, making it permanent. Many cities have this. They have downtown plazas. We don't have a lot of area to have something like this. Having benches, having trees, maybe a permanent stage or something that can be rolled out easily, not, and it's a place where you can gather any time of the day. And for example, Garrett, if you play guitar and you feel like you want to entertain a crowd, you can go down there as, an artiste or whatever, or people, doing different things. So it would be used a lot. And I also think that it would help because you do have outdoor seating there now, but you'd have much more outdoor capability. And you have 3 sort of restaurants. I know the wine bar is not considered a restaurant, but still places where you can sit and eat and drink and be merry, if you will. So that's basically my vision. That's a street that goes nowhere, goes directly into a parking garage. So I think it ties the whole thing together. If you close it, it has a Western theme, so thinking it would stay within that. But that's just my personal vision, so.
I like that a lot. We talked off record about that. I like that a lot. Lee, how feasible do you think that is?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that question as well a little bit, just because I don't like planning for properties where people aren't aware we're planning for their property. And this, what we're talking about is public property, is public right-of-way, certainly within the cities and realm to do these types of improvements. But I'm not sure who initiated discussions, but there have been discussions now with the city manager and the property owners of the properties along 3rd Street who are supportive of the concept to do this. So, So the city manager has asked Parks and Rec staff to come up with some concepts to be able to get an idea of how much to get a ballpark figure on cost estimates to find out the feasibility of doing this. So I can't say what that is, because I don't know what that is. It would appear to be within just kind of some basic rough estimates that doing something like that is well within the scope of what redevelopment has in the next year or two available to use for infrastructure projects.
Thank you. That's the answer I was looking for. Yeah. So let's work backwards. Number 11 would be my last one. So things like the studies, the utility extension, the sidewalk improvement, street lighting. I agree with Lacey. Some of those things are going to be included in the downtown project. What's not, I think we have to see exactly what is approved from the Board of Supervisors for the downtown project before we make any kind of decisions on that. So then 9, if you work your way up, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And then Third Street Plaza would be my number 1. You know, I think when we ask ourselves what is redevelopment, that's what redevelopment is. Fuji Park would be number 2. Brewery Arts would be number 3. Event funding would be 4, and then 5.
Brad?
Well, I think my opinion is going to be a little different. I rank them by importance to infrastructure projects. So number 1 would be sidewalk improvements. Number 2 is street lighting. 3 is directional signage. 4 would be special events funding. 5 would be Third Street Plaza, and the rest of them are zeros. In other words, I would remove them altogether.
Yeah, I didn't think about that in this ranking. Problem with that in this ranking system is that the lower numbers are good. So 10s, yeah, that's what I'll do.
Right, so they'd all get 10s, right?
For discussion purposes.
Okay, so then I'll take my turn, and since we're going in order. Sidewalks is 1. I think sidewalks is probably something that makes the most clean-looking community that you can have, and it certainly removes blight from your community, and I think that's what redevelopment is all about. And I also believe it will fit inside the Third Street. All the other projects deal with sidewalks, so I'm going to go with sidewalks as my number 1. Street lighting for safety in your community as number 2. Directional signage, so that if people know where things are, we'll get more activity. And then I like utility extension. I know of a project that didn't fund just because of a utility issue, and again, that's what redevelopment's all about. And I like the Brewery Arts Center as number 5. Third Street is 6, and the rest, I agree, can be 10s. Ronnie, you're up.
Okay. I think you know where I'm going on this. Let's go down. Third Street Plaza, I think I've come out enough on that to say that I think this is what redevelopment is about also. And I also feel that would be a keystone to other downtown development. I would like to see Fuji Park sign, but only if it is within means. I think it's important, especially, I came from a meeting today, especially if we're going to be doing this and doing more at Fuji Park. I would say I agree with street lighting and sidewalk improvements, but I would think that was going to be part of the overall 1/8 of a cent plan, so I'm not really sure about those. And I would rank probably Brewery Arts at number 8. And I only put that as because there's so much change going on with the Brewery Arts, and until they get their act together, I don't see how we can fund anything over there at the moment. And I do believe, let's see, where are we? For 5, I'd like to see incentives for vacant buildings. So that's, yeah, that would be a 5. And the rest, you can go ahead and give those 10s.
Thank you, Ronnie. Chris? Oh, wait, give Lee just a moment to catch up.
Actually, I think I need a moment to catch up. Well, I came in knowing kind of what my thoughts were, but I did have some questions, and I think some of them were answered here. So although I did write down some pre-rankings, I think I'll be able to adjust based on Ronnie's explanation and others. I do like the idea of Third Street Plaza as number one, so that's still up there for me. I think Fuji Park sign would probably be number 4. I'm just going back through my numbers here. So the Brewery Arts Center, I have to say, is like a 7. The event funding would be, in my book, more like an 8. The incentive program for vacant properties is 9. Directional signage would move up to, say, a 6. Street lighting would go up to, let's see, where am I at? 5 on that, yeah. And then sidewalk improvements would go up to, or actually, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a 3, 2 on, yeah, utility extension, and then 10 on economic study. Yep, that nailed it.
It tells us where we're going. While he's working on that averaging, is there anyone too that would like to comment on their thoughts from the public on a, oh, come on, Mr. White, we're willing to average it in Gene's spot. Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's resorted, and I do have to say from a mathematical perspective, those that gave a bunch of 10s misweighted it a little bit, but I'm not sure how much. So you could take that for what it is. You could see now they're re-ranked based on the average ranking, the highest being at the top now, down to the lowest. You could see where the 10s fall generally and where it might be close. So if you have any discussion or adjustment from there, that's where it sits based on what you gave me. Yeah. And based on that, what we did with CDBG, if anybody feels they want to change any of their rankings and re-looking at it this order too, that it's your discussion, your choice.
Garrett, did you have a comment?
Yeah, looking at where I put mine, I only thing I would change, I agree somewhat with the Brewery Arts Center. They need to, figure out some leadership things over there. But I do think that if they were able to get an outdoor plaza, if they were able to get their outdoor amphitheater, I think that changes things for them. I think it changes who they can recruit in talent-wise to run their center. I think it changes maybe the energy and some motivation around there. So I would move them to 2. And I would move incentives for vacant buildings up to 3. The Fuji Park sign, I can't remember whether there was further discussion with the Board of Supervisors on 2 things, whether there was, whether they're going to continue to improve Fuji Park and whether there's going to be another fair. I don't know. I just don't remember whether there was another vote on that or not. So, no decision on it. Okay. So, I think the Fuji Park sign would go down to, what do I have open, 5.
The only thing I need to throw in on there, if I may, is this shouldn't be contingent upon the fair at all. They got $20,000 as an incentive from the state to do the sign. And we're looking at Fuji Park for many different events, not just the fair. So don't get stuck on the fair. And the sign would announce all the different events going on.
And I agree, Ronnie. I've said several times that we're all in on Fuji Park at this point. I mean, that's there. That sits in one of the most prime spots that there is in Carson City. I've said it time and time again. So we're all in on that. We need to improve that park and make it the best that it can be, because I don't think it's going to be different than what it is. So, but I think that further discussion has to happen of what kind of annual events you can bring there, and signage is a big part of that.
Does anyone else want to change anything on their voting? No? Okay. So we're comfortable then, we would be recommending the order according to the average. Everybody okay?
I just have one question or one thing to add. Lee, you mentioned CDBG. CDBG basically goes in neighborhoods that are not like what we're talking about in the redevelopment zones. They're more in the low-end neighborhoods that need to be finished. So how does that figure in this?
There's not very much overlap between the low to moderate income areas that qualify for CDBG, public improvements, and the redevelopment district. And we just got they just updated that map to the 2010 census just within the last couple months, so I'm less familiar with it than I was for the last number of years previous to this, but I know there's very little overlap. I think there is some actually down, there might be some down in redevelopment area number 2 on South Carson Street on the east side, but I'm not even positive of that. Yeah, so they're in different areas. So to answer your question more direct, the pool of funds for CDBG are used in different areas than they would be within the redevelopment district.
Garrett?
One last thing, maybe Lee, you can highlight what kind of sidewalk improvements are at this point being proposed, at least on the public open houses for the redevelopment, for the 1/8 cent redevelopment, and also, as we talked earlier, if there's no sidewalk improvements downtown between Musser Street and 5th Street, I would be all for sidewalk improvements around the 3rd Street Plaza. If you're going to do the 3rd Street Plaza, you have to have wider sidewalks. I think that's, period, you have to do it. I think that has to be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, I recall that with the discussion regarding sidewalks, I know Mr. White brought it up, and I think there was some discussion about it, but my understanding is we're talking about sidewalks beyond the 8 cents sales tax projects, besides the downtown core projects. This would be going into the neighborhoods on either side and the other connections where there's not necessarily a dedicated funding source to do additional improvements. I think that's a very general statement. There's not a particular plan. I'm sure there's places that transportation can identify that need those connections and are important to the redevelopment area.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion if someone would make it to finish this item.
I make a motion that we accept the potential objectives for the redevelopment committee as outlined here, with number 1 being 3rd Street Plaza, 2 being sidewalk improvements, 3 being street lighting, 4 being Fuji Park, etc.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
There's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? And again, no weighing in, just one last chance for public. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you, guys. Okay, we'll move on to item 5.2, which is to provide direction to staff regarding the preparation of the 2014 Christmas ornament. That's my agenda item. We annually put together a ornament that the city sells, and we've received, I'll pass these out and then leave them with the staff for the record, and then anybody can pipe in with any more ideas they might have. One is a school. It was Carson City's central school that filled the block bounded by King Street on the south, Division Street on the east, Minnesota Street to the west, and Musser Street to the north. And I'll pass that one down, the one in the corner. And then we've also had a submittal of a McKeon motor car. So I'll pass this one that way, and everybody can switch.
And the
to
reason
look.
for the McKean, just so that I can pass this on, it's the only restored car of its type in the United States. So, and it's here in Carson City.
maybe there's some historians, whether they're out there or up here, is there any building in the redevelopment area that has direct ties that would match well with the 150 anniversary for this year? Is there any building that's been around 150 years? I mean, is there anything that has direct ties? Okay. Okay.
That's kind of the issue, is we're now trying to fill them in. Did you have a?
I did. On Caroline Street, 206 Caroline is a little house that was built in 1852. Was one of the first houses owned by the Adams family that came in from Maine and came across and it's a little house. It's 1 bed, 1 bath, raised 6 kids in it, no plumbing. And it is as cute as can be. And that ties right in when Caroline Street had the railroad track going down the front of it. So it's a cute little house across the street from the governor's mansion. But that's my 2 cents.
Actually, another one, now that you're talking about houses, which I hadn't thought of, and it's not on here, and I can't think of the name of it, the one that's where the Historical Society is in, it's just up from you.
What is that, the yellow house?
The Yellow House.
Yeah.
What's the name of that one?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, whatever.
That's the first to go, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the park, it's where the City Historical Society is in now. It has a little picket fence around it. Pardon me?
No.
No, this is right on 395, or,
Park Street, Park and Carson.
and they just put a garage in the back and meeting room. Pardon me? Robert's house, Robert's house.
Yes, thank you.
That's sort of an interesting looking one as well, so, and that was brought in from Washoe. It's got quite a history as well, so that's something just for consideration, because it's not on the list.
One of the other issues that we discussed a little bit last time, and some people have talked to me with the ornaments, is it would be really nice if we also included a little statement in the ornament that depicted, and so I'd like to see if we can make that change. I did a presentation at a meeting because I wanted to help eliminate some of the older ornaments that were in stock, and I've got to tell you, people were thrilled, and then they bought the whole sets once they realized the actual history that went with the ornament. And so I typed it all up, but anyway, I think it would be I know, huh? I think it would be neat if we could add that to whatever we're going to do, and so I know that would be a
Make a motion we do that when we consider the ornament.
Yeah. So does anyone have a particular ornament that they're just really in favor of? I'll speak on the school one that was presented. That came from Mr. Parker, who actually attended the school and said there's a contingent here in town that would be so honored if we would do the school, that while he's still around to see the ornament. Anyway, so I'll pass that on.
Okay, I don't know who Mr. Parker is, but looking at the list here, it seemed buildings that are still here. I would think maybe the Roberts House. I hadn't even thought about that, but I would think the Roberts House is pretty well something that people can refer to.
Anybody else got a feel?
On the statement of, or putting together the historical perspective for the ornament, I was wondering, since it's from the city, is it something that could be put like on a webpage for the city as well, so people could look back on the old list? I mean, if you mentioned that the history was so valuable to other people, I know we did a good job with leadership getting the webpage up for the grave sites at Lone Mountain, so that might be an option too. I don't want to create a bunch of work, but I mean, it might be fairly straightforward if it's already being typed up.
I did it.
It's already typed.
I think it certainly fits in your 150-year celebration of who we are and what is Carson City. And so I think it's a neat thing, and I'd be happy to share the write-ups and stuff that I did for the presentations, and the city can manipulate those in any way they feel comfortable.
That building's still standing?
It's actually been changed. It's currently a state building on 400 West King on the corner there.
Modern building.
It's modernized.
The ornament would look like it does in the picture.
Yes. Actually, a company called ChemArt does it, and they do a super job. I send her the artwork, and then she sends us back a model so that we can make sure it depicts what it is. And we don't have very much time, so we're going to have to make a decision where we're going if we're going to have an ornament in time. And we have to have a rendering that we can actually send, and not that we can't take a picture, but it'll look like it looks today, not what it looked like then, unless somebody's got a picture.
It's not here anymore.
Right, so.
Do we have a rendering for it? I mean,
This one, yes.
that one does work. I'm for that one. Especially if time's an issue. You know, if we don't have time to come back, next month and talk about the Roberts House or whatever.
How about the idea that we look for a rendering for next year for the Roberts House? Because I think
already
that's
have
a.
one.
Oh, you have a rendering for the Roberts House that we can.
Picture. Oh, yeah, I have it. It's been
From-
in Focus magazine, sure. I mean, I'm ready to go.
Oh, okay. But I'm just saying, we could actually stack this for a few years, so we're not going through this
Doesn't matter to me.
process every year. So, are you making a motion?
Well, I have another one I hate to throw in.
Oh.
Nevada State Prison.
We talked about that. I'm just saying, we talked about that, but it's not very Christmassy.
Well, it depends on whom you're speaking. That's true.
Does anyone want to make a motion and give it a shot?
I'll give a shot at making this motion. I make a motion to have staff use, do we have an address for that building? 400 West King. To use 400 West King as the building for the Christmas ornament for 2014, and additionally on the Christmas ornament to have a description of the building or at least a historical description of the building to be included with the ornament as well.
Is there a second?
A clarification, is the history going to be on the ornament or a separate piece of paper in the box?
Piece of paper in the box.
Okay, then I second the motion if that's what you intended.
Want me to amend it?
That's what he said.
Okay, I second it.
There's a motion and a second on the, is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, guys. Okay, we're on to item number 6. Any staff reports, Lee?
Yes, I'd like to note for you and the public that, as has been mentioned during the discussion about the downtown improvements, we are in the process of coming up with concepts with the idea of going to the Board of Supervisors in November to get a decision on concept for Carson Street, meaning general design concept, like, for example, parking, no parking, bike lanes, et cetera. And we're having a workshop on September 16th. So I do not have the times yet. I hope to actually know the times by the end of the day. For anybody watching this, by Friday, September 5th, we should have the times and dates set. If you call the planning office or City Hall, we'll let you know, because I'll have them by then. And for anyone watching now, of course, call after that time, and we'll have the dates. It'll also get noticed in the paper. Generally, I don't want to say for sure, but we're looking at a late morning, possibly noonish time to have. It's going to be at the community center. We're going to have a presentation, have the opportunity to ask questions and make comments. We're going to do it, as I said, late morning, noonish time, and then also in the evening, probably around 5:30 time frame is what we're probably looking at. But get back with us later to confirm, and I'll send that notice out to all of you for sure within the next couple of days.
Thank you. Any RAC member reports?
No,
Oh, you had something else?
Yeah,
Sorry, Lee.
and to go on to and that relates to future agenda items, because on our planning process, so the plan, as I said, we have the workshop September 16th, we have the Board of Supervisors in November. In between that, we're bringing it to RAC next month at your meeting in October, so at least that will be on your agenda for next month.
Thank you. Any RAC member reports? Yes.
For the people that aren't aware of it yet, the report came out today that Tesla has chosen Nevada as their site for their battery plant, and there will be an announcement. You could probably say this better than I could, John, but there'll be a press conference tomorrow with the governor and with the mayor and other dignitaries to make the announcement. 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. CNBC is the one that reported it first. So that's really good news for the state and for the region.
Let's hope they're right.
Well, they wouldn't call a news conference and Elon Musk is going to be here, so I'm assuming.
Well, let's hope they're right. Who knows? Who knows? I also, under this topic, would like to just say that we did fund or give some funding to the fair, the 150th. And I came from a meeting there today, and everybody agrees that for the first time out, this NV 150 fair was very successful. We don't know yet whether it will be funded by the Board of Supervisors in the future or how it will be funded, but for this 1 year, it was a great gift to Carson City residents and area residents, and like to commend Marina Works and the volunteers and all the city staff that really worked so hard on it. It was a great event. Hope you guys made it.
Does anybody else have a comment? Garrett?
Let me second both those things that Brad said. I think, I was looking at some numbers. They said 6,500 jobs with an average pay of around $70,000 coming to this area. That's huge. That's not a $30,000 a year job. That's a big number. But more importantly, the state of Nevada as a whole employs somewhere around 6,300 people. So Tesla will end up being, when at full capacity, the biggest employer in Nevada. And you look at it from that standpoint and the numbers and how it's going to impact this whole region. It's huge. So, and then also on the MV Fair, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It was a chance to showcase Carson City, to show some of that Nevada pride, and I hope that's something that they continue to fund. The question I want to ask is, do we want to plan further? Sidewalk improvements was number 2 on that list. Do we want to talk further about areas that we'd like to see sidewalk improvements? We have the member of the public that brought it to us last time. Maybe he has a particular area he'd like us to talk about. Do we want to plan further for that so we can do something later on a separate agenda?
We can consider that under future agenda items so that we can stay within the open meeting law rules for discussion. So if we have no more RAC member reports, we can pick up now for future agenda items. And so are you indicating, Garrett, that you'd like to add a sidewalk discussion, and maybe they can, for a future agenda, they can bring some staff ideas of what Lee indicated, where we have gaps and could have some matchups?
Yeah, if I can suggest, you've made it might be premature, at least in October, to bring that back before bringing the recommendations generally to the Board of Supervisors. I think what I do want to bring back is a report on how the Board of Supervisors, what discussion they have regarding redevelopment and those priorities, and bring that back to you, and then I think we can evaluate what projects we should bring back in more detail.
Yeah, these are just discussions for future, not necessarily the next one. I received a phone call from Buildings and Grounds that would like to extend an invitation to all of us to actually tour some of the grounds that the state can work with us in the redevelopment areas for options and uses and understanding of the requirements to utilize those state properties. I thought that was an excellent idea to give us all perspective when we try to put things together and to understand where is parking that could be utilized, because I think it would surprise many of us of some of the parking areas that could be utilized for some of these events if we just had realized we could use it. Is there a way that at the next meeting we could just do the tour part like at 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then come in and do this meeting at 5:30? And if you can't answer it now, it's okay, but we would like to actually see if we can't do that tour as a future.
Yeah, that's certainly a possible. And I got a call. What was her name? Terry was saying, yeah,
Preston.
I got a call from her too, and still have some research to track down to get, and it might be more than. I think there's some others that need to be involved besides RAC, so I still need to follow up with that. So that's something I do need to follow up with them on, and looking at times to do that, and maybe include some others with the city. It could be part of a RAC meeting on the agenda and invite others too. So we'll look into that. But keep that in mind. If it's not set up by the October meeting, I know that's something we want to do, and so I'll make sure we keep RAC involved in that one.
Great. Does anyone else have something for a future agenda item they'd like to discuss? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to item 7, which is our final public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the RAC, including any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. Is there any public comment? Been too quiet. Okay. Well, then we'll move on to item 8, and I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone, for your good work.